This is one of Amelia Earhart's planes as she flew back in the 1930s. The plane, of course, she tried to go around the world in has been missing since 1937. And now this photograph unearthed by history investigators.
They may have finally found Amelia Earhart's missing plane, and the discovery is already raising questions. Nearly 9 decades after the pilot vanished over the Pacific, researchers are examining a strange object beneath the waters of an island, one that appears close to the size and shape of her Lockheed Electra. But is this the aircraft, or another false lead ready to disappoint the world? As excitement spreads, so does skepticism. So, what exactly is hiding beneath the water, and could this finally solve Earhart's disappearance? The shape beneath Nikumaroro's waters. Something unusual is waiting beneath the shallow waters of Nikumaroro, and researchers now have a specific reason to return to this remote Pacific island. Hidden below the surface of the lagoon is a distinct shape that has captured attention because it does not immediately resemble the surrounding coral formations or ordinary underwater debris. Instead, its unusual outline appears surprisingly similar to an aircraft, raising the possibility that it could be connected to Amelia Earhart's missing Lockheed Electra. The object, referred to as the Taraya object, is not simply a random mark appearing somewhere in the vast Pacific Ocean. It is a clearly identified anomaly located in a shallow lagoon, making it possible for researchers to study its exact position and investigate it directly. Measurements taken from available imagery suggest that the object is approximately 12 to 14 meters long. That detail has become one of the reasons for the growing interest surrounding it because Amelia Earhart's Lockheed Electra had a fuselage measuring around 12.2 meters in length. The similarity is difficult to ignore, but researchers understand that size alone cannot prove the identity of the object. An aircraft-like measurement can create a strong connection, yet it remains only one piece of a much larger puzzle. The real question is whether the object's other characteristics match what would be expected from a missing aircraft that disappeared nearly 9 decades ago. From above, the shape appears elongated, with a longer central section that seems to narrow toward one end. Some observers have interpreted the outline as resembling the body and tail section of a plane. However, satellite imagery can often create uncertainty. Objects beneath shallow water can appear different depending on depth, lighting, water movement, sediment coverage, and the condition of the surrounding coral. A shape that looks like an aircraft from above may still have another explanation when examined closely. What makes the Taraya object more intriguing is its apparent history. When researchers reviewed older aerial photographs of the lagoon, they discovered that a similar shape appears in imagery dating back to 1938, just 1 year after Amelia Earhart disappeared during her attempt to fly around the world. If the object shown in those photographs is the same anomaly being studied today, it means something matching this description may have been sitting in the lagoon for generations. That timeline does not confirm that the object belonged to Earhart's aircraft. However, it places the discovery in a location already connected to the theory that Earhart and her navigator, Fred Noonan, may have reached Nikumaroro after failing to locate Howland Island. The mystery has now moved beyond another unclear image or distant search target. Researchers are no longer looking across endless areas of ocean without a specific lead. They have a defined object in shallow water that can be examined. Until that examination takes place, the evidence remains suggestive rather than conclusive. Still, the object's size, appearance, location, and possible age create a combination of clues that makes it impossible for investigators to ignore. Decades later, could that final signal have been more than a desperate message? Could Earhart's last known path reveal a hidden destination beneath the waves? And what secrets are waiting to be uncovered as investigators follow the clue that refused to disappear for all time? Let's find out. The final flight direction. On July 2, 1937, Amelia Earhart and navigator Fred Noonan disappeared while attempting one of the most difficult legs of their journey around the world. They had departed Lae, New Guinea, with tiny Howland Island as their destination. After hours over open Pacific water, reaching that small island required extraordinary navigation. Howland was barely 2 kilometers long and only a few meters above the sea, making it an extremely difficult target to locate from the air. A United States Coast Guard ship, the Itasca, waited near Howland to assist them through radio communication. As the morning progressed, the crew could hear Earhart's transmissions becoming stronger and clearer. She appeared to be getting close, yet something was going badly wrong. Communication between the aircraft and the ship was not working as expected. Earhart seemed unable to hear the responses coming from the Itasca, leaving the crew without a clear way to guide her toward the island. Then came the transmission that would become one of the most important clues in the entire disappearance. Earhart reported that the aircraft was running along a navigation line. The transmission ended, and her voice was never heard again. That final direction became crucial because the line ran northwest to southeast and passed directly through Howland Island. If the aircraft was somewhere along that bearing but could not locate Howland, there were two possible directions to continue. One direction led northwest across thousands of miles of empty Pacific. The other led southeast toward a scattered group of islands, including the island then known as Gardner Island, now Nikumaroro. For decades, the simplest explanation remained that Earhart and Noonan had run out of fuel and crashed into the ocean somewhere near Howland. That assumption naturally directed search efforts toward the surrounding seabed. But the possibility of a southeast flight created another path through the mystery. If Earhart had followed the line away from Howland, the aircraft could have continued toward Nikumaroro rather than disappearing immediately into the sea. That possibility does not prove that the aircraft reached the island, but it changes the significance of the location where the Taraya object now sits. Suddenly, the strange shape beneath Nikumaroro's lagoon is no longer just an isolated image. It becomes part of a chain of clues stretching from Earhart's final transmission to the island itself. The radio signal disappeared in 1937, but the direction behind those final words never disappeared. And if that line truly points toward the place where the aircraft may have ended its journey, the object beneath the lagoon could represent something far more important than an unexplained shape. Decades of disputed clues have surrounded Nikumaroro, but could one hidden discovery finally change everything? Why does this underwater mystery connect to a forgotten chapter of history? And what will investigators uncover next when they examine the evidence waiting beneath the surface of the lagoon? Keep watching. The evidence buried onshore. Nikumaroro became one of the most important locations in the Amelia Earhart mystery because the island offered researchers something more than speculation. Unlike theories based only on possible flight paths or ocean searches, Nikumaroro contained physical clues that suggested someone may have survived there after disappearing over the Pacific. Those discoveries transformed the remote coral island into the center of one of the most debated explanations for Earhart's final journey. In 1940, British colonial officer Gerald Gallagher reported finding partial human remains on the island, along with several objects that appeared to suggest a person had lived there for some time. The discovery included 13 bones located near a campfire, part of a woman's shoe, and a box that had once contained a sextant, a tool used for navigation. At the time, the remains were examined and identified as male, a conclusion that seemed to weaken any possible connection to Amelia Earhart. However, the mystery did not disappear with that original assessment. The bones were eventually lost, leaving later researchers unable to conduct modern DNA testing that could have provided a much clearer answer. Without those remains, the question of who the person was remained unresolved, leaving investigators to study the other evidence left behind on the island. Decades later, researchers revisited the original measurements of the bones using updated forensic methods. In 2018, a forensic anthropologist concluded that the measurements were more consistent with Amelia Earhart's estimated physical build than with 99% of the population. While this finding did not prove that the remains belonged to Earhart, it renewed interest in the possibility that she and navigator Fred Noonan may have reached Nikumaroro after failing to locate Howland Island. Additional discoveries added further mystery to the island's story. Researchers identified areas containing small campfires, along with remains of fish, birds, turtles, and clams. These findings suggested that someone may have attempted to survive by using the resources available in the surrounding environment. The way some shellfish were reportedly opened was also interpreted as possibly matching the behavior of someone unfamiliar with local methods rather than a person from the island. Another unusual discovery was a small jar of anti-freckle cream. The product was sold to American women during the 1930s, making it an intriguing artifact when considered alongside the other findings. Yet none of these clues alone could confirm that Earhart had been there. Each piece created a possibility, but each also carried unanswered questions. That uncertainty is what keeps Nikumaroro at the center of the investigation. The evidence does not provide a simple conclusion, but it creates a pattern that researchers continue to examine. Human remains, survival traces, personal objects, and the island's location along the proposed flight path all contribute to a theory that remains both fascinating and disputed. Now, those historical clues are connected to a new piece of evidence: the strange object beneath the lagoon. If Nikumaroro truly holds the final chapter of Earhart's journey, that underwater discovery could provide the physical proof researchers have searched for. And that possibility makes the next investigation impossible to ignore. Nearly 90 years later, that forgotten image raises a haunting question. What was hidden beneath the lagoon all this time, and why did no one find it sooner? As investigators dig deeper, could this be the clue that finally changes everything about Earhart's disappearance forever? Stay glued. The photograph that refused to disappear. The mystery surrounding the Taraya object became more unsettling when researchers looked backward through old photographs. The strange shape beneath Nikumaroro's shallow lagoon was first noticed in modern satellite imagery, where it appeared unlike ordinary coral or rock. At first, that image offered only a possibility. Underwater shapes can be misleading, and a distant photograph cannot establish what lies beneath the surface. Then researchers began examining older aerial photographs of the same lagoon. What they found changed the significance of the anomaly. The shape appeared in imagery dating back to 1938, only 1 year after Amelia Earhart disappeared. If those photographs show the same object, it means the anomaly was already present in the lagoon long before modern researchers began searching for it. That detail matters because the object's apparent age fits the timeline that makes Nikumaroro central to the Earhart mystery. The island had already become important because of the possibility that Earhart and Fred Noonan reached it after failing to locate Howland Island. Now, a physical-looking shape that may have been resting in the lagoon since shortly after the disappearance seemed to add another layer to the theory. But the photographs still could not answer the most important question. A shape beneath shallow water can change depending on sediment, lighting, water movement, and the condition of the surrounding coral. A powerful storm can also shift sand and sediment, potentially exposing something that had previously been hidden or changing how an object appears from above. In the Taraya object's case, researchers considered the possibility that environmental changes helped reveal the anomaly. That uncertainty creates a difficult balance. The object has an apparent length of roughly 12 to 14 meters, close to the 12.2-meter fuselage length of Earhart's Lockheed Electra. Its outline can also resemble an aircraft body and tail, yet resemblance is not identification. Previous searches have already shown how easily an image can create confidence before a closer examination destroys it. The earlier sonar target near Howland appeared to resemble an aircraft, but was eventually identified as a natural rock formation. The Taraya object therefore cannot be treated as proven wreckage simply because it looks convincing. Still, the fact that the shape appears in photographs dating back to 1938 makes the mystery even harder for researchers to ignore. The anomaly was not a recent discovery created by modern technology, but something that appears to have existed in the lagoon for decades. Yet the images alone cannot reveal its true identity. They can only show that something unusual has remained beneath Nikumaroro's waters for almost 90 years. The unanswered question continues to drive the investigation. Is this the missing aircraft, or another clue waiting to be explained? The evidence may be compelling, but could it still be another illusion? Are researchers about to uncover the missing piece that separates discovery from deception? And when the final clues emerge, will they confirm a legendary breakthrough, or expose a mystery deeper than anyone imagined? Stay with us. The doubt behind the discovery. The case surrounding Nikumaroro has never been accepted as settled, and the Taraya object has not changed that reality. For researchers who remain skeptical, the strange shape beneath the lagoon may be interesting, but interest is not proof. The possibility that it belongs to Amelia Earhart's Lockheed Electra must still compete with explanations that are far less dramatic. One concern is the object itself. Its outline may resemble an aircraft, and its apparent dimensions are intriguing, but satellite imagery can create misleading impressions. Storms can move material across a lagoon, while sediment, coral, and changing water conditions can alter what appears beneath the surface. A natural object, including material displaced by severe weather, could potentially produce a shape that looks far more significant than it really is. That caution has been strengthened by previous searches. In January of the previous year, a sonar image from roughly 100 miles from Howland Island appeared to show something remarkably similar to an aircraft. The shape seemed to have a fuselage, wings, and tail, and the apparent discovery quickly attracted worldwide attention. Yet when an underwater robot returned for a closer, higher-resolution examination, the supposed aircraft turned out to be a natural rock formation. Thousands of square miles had been searched, but the technology had not uncovered Earhart's plane. That failure matters because it demonstrates how easily hope can become certainty before physical evidence exists. The same danger hangs over the Taraya object. Even its location on Nikumaroro does not settle the mystery because the island itself remains the subject of competing interpretations. The missing human remains create another serious limitation. The bones discovered there in 1940 were eventually lost, meaning modern researchers cannot use DNA testing to establish whether they belong to Earhart. Later analysis of the original measurements produced an intriguing result, but measurements cannot replace the missing remains. For that reason, the strongest argument is also the simplest one. The object must eventually be examined directly. Its appearance may justify investigation, but only physical evidence can determine whether it is aircraft material or something else entirely. Until that examination happens, the headline remains a claim rather than a conclusion. The object could become the clearest physical lead in the Earhart mystery, or another convincing clue that disappears under closer scrutiny. And that uncertainty is exactly what makes the approaching investigation so important before the truth emerges. The ocean has guarded this secret for decades, but now every scan could change history. Will the Taraya object reveal the truth behind Earhart's disappearance? Could the next discovery finally connect the missing pieces? Or will another mystery remain buried beneath the Pacific, forever unanswered? Stay tuned. Investigation that could decide everything. The mystery surrounding Amelia Earhart has reached a point where speculation may finally give way to direct physical evidence. The Taraya object beneath Nikumaroro's shallow lagoon is no longer simply a strange shape in an image. It has become the target of an expedition designed to determine what it actually is. The planned investigation matters because earlier searches often depended on covering enormous areas of ocean or interpreting uncertain images. This time, researchers know where the anomaly is located. Instead of searching thousands of square miles of deep seabed, the team can focus on one object in shallow water, where direct examination is possible. The expedition is expected to use imaging, sonar, and magnetometers to study the object before attempting physical recovery if the evidence supports that step. Those instruments could reveal whether metal is present and whether the structure beneath the sediment has characteristics consistent with an aircraft. A closer examination could then provide evidence that photographs alone never could. If the object contains aircraft material, its shape and composition would become crucial. Researchers could examine the structure, compare its configuration with Earhart's Lockheed Electra, and look for components or identifying features that might connect it to the missing aircraft. Historical compatibility would also matter. A discovery would need to fit the known timeline and circumstances of the 1937 disappearance before it could support a definitive conclusion. But the opposite result remains entirely possible. The object could prove to be natural material, storm-displaced debris, or unrelated wreckage. In that case, another promising lead would collapse under closer inspection, much like previous discoveries that initially appeared convincing. That uncertainty brings the investigation back to Earhart's final known transmission. She reported running along a navigation line before communication ended, and the southeast direction from that line became central to the theory that she may have reached Nikumaroro. Now, nearly 90 years later, researchers are examining an object positioned in the very location that has kept that theory alive. The investigation therefore represents more than another search. It could determine whether one of aviation history's most persistent clues finally leads to physical evidence, or whether the mystery remains buried beneath the lagoon. Either way, the significance lies in the examination itself. For the first time, the question can move beyond what the object seems to be and toward what it can actually prove. So what do you think? Could Amelia's plane truly have been found, or is this another mystery waiting to unfold? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Remember to always like, share, and subscribe.